What's up, guys? How's it going? We got a Wednesday link during the day, middle of the day. What's up, Thomas?
What's up? Doing well. Good to be back. Been a couple of Wednesdays since we did a Wednesday link.
Mm-hmm.
Having a kid and all. Been a little busy the past couple of Wednesdays. But yeah, decided to jump on here in the afternoon. Get ready for the Cowboy game. A lot of drama in Philadelphia, I think, is probably something we say every single week here on the show, but nothing new. And yeah, good to be on live again.
There we go. It is great to see. Obviously, we had the game stream, but yeah, missed these regular weekly occurrences. To your point of drama, people have probably already seen this, but the reminder from Hard Knocks that they posted recently on Twitter of saying like, hey, by the way, December 2nd, right around the corner, you're going to get some behind-the-scenes access of the NFC East. You know that a lot of this stuff is going to be on it because it's fueled the headlines and the media narratives and everything else. But it feels like, I guess, your later season fall football, what it wouldn't be that without some drama and some headlines, I suppose.
Of course.
Yet the Eagles are first in the NFC.
And yet they're 8-2. I know.
Right.
And yet they continue to be the cream of the crop in terms of the NFC. They've beaten every single good NFC team that they faced. And now they have another test this weekend, which I'm sure we'll talk about with the Dallas Cowboys. Not easy. I think Dallas is going to be very tricky for them. It always is on the road. We've been to those Dallas Cowboy games in Jerry World. November, December, they're just tricky. And so we'll see. But overall, I would say good things happening in Philadelphia, unless you're, Philly beat writer or Philly media member who wants to kind of take a knock at swing at Jalen Hurts, then, it's not all good, but what's new?
Yeah. It's just kind of almost a regular occurrence now, even with the Eagles winning, which, by the way, shout out to everybody in the chat. As always, drop a like. We do appreciate you guys. I've seen a couple comments or questions in videos, Thomas, I'm sure you probably have as well. We are not going to the Dallas game. You can thank us for that because, as Thomas mentioned a second ago, we're good luck when it comes to the NFC Championship game, so we will go in person if we make the NFC and we host the NFC Championship game. You don't want us there in Dallas. The last time, it was only the one occurrence recently, but the last time was obviously the big blowout where the wheels fell off and, it was miserable. So we're going to refrain from that, and hopefully, we can continue to, double them up from last year that happened. Now, the Eagles are wearing their Kelly Green jerseys, so that's something of note. If people are believing in, the superstitions there or playing well. This would be, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the first time they've done it on the road, right? So first time on the road, they've worn Kelly Greens and against an NFC, or they did against Dallas, but against the NFC East opponent on the road. Does it hold up if you go on the road, the look good, feel good, play good aspect? I don't know, but whatever it takes to get the offense clicking a little bit better, I'm all for it.
Yeah, whatever it takes. And we should obviously start with the offense because if there is one thing holding back not just people in Philadelphia, but the entire NFL media as a whole, from crowning the Eagles as a guarantee back-to-back champ, or at least, a guaranteed back-to-back one seed, or they weren't one seed last year, but a one seed back to the NFC title game, it would be a little bit better offensive play. And that's been the whole argument the past, 11 weeks. What is the problem? Is it Nick Sirianni? Is it Ken Patullo? Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it the offensive line? Is it A.J. Brown? And I think we're starting to really nail it down or narrow it down. I think most fans kind of understand what's going on here. But I want your thoughts. I mean, do you think that it's as simple as Ken Patullo changing play calls like I do? I really believe that, yes, I'm sure that there are factors that Jalen Hurts, is not Peyton Manning. And I'm sure the offensive line, we've seen footage of it, not playing that well.
Sure.
And we can make the argument that A.J. Brown looks a little bit, not washed, a little slower. Maybe the hamstring, maybe the knee, maybe the little injury going on there. Those are all valid. But when I see stats like Philadelphia runs the most hitch routes, the most basically 10-yard curls of any team in the entire NFL time and time and time again. And then you see, passing charts and you see EPA breakdowns and all the stuff that goes, just scheme better, just call better plays. I'm still convinced that they're calling an extremely vanilla offense. And any argument that you have out there that, Jalen Hurts is the reason, was he the reason in 2022? Was he the reason in 2024 during the playoff run? Because if he wasn't, which he wasn't, then something changed, and that was the offensive coordinator. So I'm still convinced that they have got to figure out a way to force Ken Patullo to let it rip. And I get that they're playing conservative, Josh, but, I mean, come on. Conservative has kept us in all these football games this year where one wrong move and the Birds are going to lose. Same for last week, same versus the Packers. Let's blow a good team out for once. And not saying Dallas is good, but they're much better than week one. Maybe they'll do that this weekend.
Yeah, different story. Hopefully it is. I've tried to think about the same thing of like, and it feels like the blame game every single week, right? The optimistic
Really
viewpoint, we're
does.
still saying, hey, look, we're 8-2, top of the NFC. I understand that. Live in the glory days, enjoy it, all this other stuff. That's totally fair. And yes, I still am confident and optimistic in this Eagles team. A lot of that because the defense, obviously, but if they can figure out a semblance to be an average offense, which is still underperforming, but just an average offense, then that's more than good enough to do what we want to go to the Super Bowl and to win it. But you hear comments, even Ben Johnson being asked, because it very quickly, goes across Eagles Twitter space because, it's like, oh, well, that's a great answer. We'd love that from an offense coordinator or for a play caller. But Ben Johnson was asked, head coach of the Bears, previously with the Lions, hey, 50-50 balls, would you like to look into those more? Should you utilize that? Maybe not taking too many chances, blah, blah. And basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, no, I don't really believe in that too much. If you look at my track record, my history, there's better ways to get guys open that you don't have to force it. AKA, there's a lot of ways to make life easier on the quarterback, the offense, the receivers, the line, everything there. So I think the easiest and quickest answer to that is for sure 100% Kevin Patullo play calling, but it's also tons of shades of Sirianni's offense, flavors, whatever you want to say there, of Sirianni involved and schematically as well, because the flow of the game, that fine. Like that I believe, and I think most people are on the same page. The flow of the game, the sequencing and play calling, most of that falls on Kevin Patullo. But the scheme itself, when Grant Calcaterra is playing 34 plays and can't block to save his life, and you're not going to throw to him much, right? There's one pass, Jalen missed him in the Green Bay game, fine, whatever. But like overall, he's hurting you on the field. He's not doing any good. And yet you run 12 personnel. What was it? One of the highest rates that they had all season, combined with they're not running 11 personnel. Like that had been a successful recipe. So it's all this disjointedness. It's the combined with the scheme, which I believe the scheme-wise, Sirianni has a whole lot of input. It's in the play calling where, Patullo's adjusting. So you don't have a great scheme. You don't have good play calling. You certainly don't have good sequencing of play calling. And then we've talked about it week in and week out. The offensive line is average at best. They're having issues. We got boneheaded penalties at times from everybody. No one's, excused of that. And then the players that are just not executing. So it's the perfect storm. It really is. You're looking at it going, how do the Eagles rank 25th, 28th, 30th, wherever it is in different categories on offense? That's how there's not even one area where you go, well, at least they're good in that, but besides red zone, but like just holistically as the offense, there's not really one thing you go, okay, well, thankfully they can at least hang their hat on running the football. They can at least hang their hat on a passing game of sorts. It's all over the place.
They also don't run RPOs anymore. You think back to 2022. I mean, that was a staple. The Shane Steichen offense was the RPO. They never do that except for those occasional Goddard pop passes, which are one play. I mean, they literally run that one little RPO at a pistol where they throw a Goddard in the out route, and that's the only one that they actually do. Plus, I mean, this whole idea that they don't run empty enough either. There was a great Twitter breakdown on how incredibly successful empty formation has been for Philadelphia. They ran it a little bit more versus Detroit, but it's like 3 plays a game when it should be 10 plays a game. I don't know. To me, it's just absolutely fascinating that we're at this point where every single year we beg Philadelphia to give us something. Last year they figured it out. 2022 they were great basically the entire year. And whenever you don't have Shane Steichen or Kellen Moore, it seems to just be this reoccurring problem. And I think the hope now for Eagle fans is that eventually Ken Patullo figures it out. Eventually Jalen Hurts takes it, matters into his own hands, which is a possibility. Or Patullo's going to get let go at the end of the year, and they'll go outside the building for an external hire. He'll come in with a fresh mindset. I know Dable's name gets thrown around, and McDaniel, who, outside the organization sounds important. Bring him in and give him a whole fresh thing. But the truth of the matter is that this Philadelphia team, if they could even have the 15th ranked offense in the entire NFL, they're blowing teams out of the water. They should have blown the Packers out of the water. You should have blown the Lions out of the water. 5 turnovers. We talked about 6, really, the pick and the 5 stops on 4th down. They should be killing teams right now with how good the defense is playing, and they just can't. And the one thing about Dallas this weekend, Josh, if there's one team, I thought it would be the Detroit Lions, but if there's one team that's going to be able to score on this great defense, you would think it'd be the Dallas Cowboys because they have everybody healthy. Lamb, Pickens, the running game, they're doing some good stuff over there in Dallas right now. This might be the weekend you have to score more than 13 points to go ahead and win, and maybe it'll force Ken Patullo to, open things up a little bit. But I do think Philadelphia gets into these games. First quarter happens. They see that they're dominating, the defensive line, right? And Nick Sirianni and Ken Patullo just go, let's just not turn it over. Play smart. We'll be fine. And that's how they play the rest of the game. And it's worked. I mean, Nick Sirianni's win record's like best ever in NFL history through this many games.
Yes.
And they just kind of go, all right, well, we know we're going to win by one score. Let's just roll with that instead of like, we got to go ahead and score like we saw at the end of the Rams game where they had to put a point. They showed us that they could, and they still won the game. So
yeah. It's not a Jalen Hurts. By the way, shout out to the super chats. I'm going to get to those. Dez with a 2. Jalen has 22 touchdowns, 1 interception, 8-2. He is him. He's been playing more than good enough. There's been spurts where it's been games that haven't been great, but it's not to the magnitude. It's insane. You hear all the narratives, the national narratives, even some of the local, but a lot of the national narratives of like, oh, Jalen Hurts and he's limited and he's hurting this offense and all. It's like, okay, but if we're going to do that, if we're going to try to criticize, we're going to micro-focus on specific plays or specific instances where, again, I'll say it, look, Jalen has not played his sharpest. He didn't do that in Green Bay. He didn't do it in Detroit. We can make excuses, say, hey, it was a bad weather game. Fine, it was, but he still did not play his best ball, and he would admit that. But where's the fair criticism then for Justin Herbert? Where's the 10 for 18 for 81 yards? Where's your team got beat 35-6? Like, if that had happened to Jalen Hurts, he would be crucified everywhere. Like, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I told you. Like, people just dancing on that to say, there we go. I knew it. It was a matter of time. He's holding this offense back. It's Tanner McKee. And yet, no, it's just kind of like, well, he had a bad game. Justin Herbert had a bad game. We've seen him do other things, though. So they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
I know.
It's also an extreme double standard.
I love the side-to-side facts, speaking of double standards. Philadelphia had like 270 yards of offense against the Lions. The Rams had 249 against the Seattle Seahawks.
Yes,
and everybody has the Rams as the number one team. Colin Cowherd, herd hierarchy, number one today. I was watching that with my little lunch break. Philadelphia, I think that they're just, I don't know, kept to a higher standard. And people think that they're supposed to be able to score 9,000 points a game because they have all these great weapons, when in reality, the Lions have really great weapons. Lions have, right now, this season, a better running back statistically, and you can argue a better receiver, I think, than A.J. Brown, Amon Ra St. Brown, at least health-wise right now. And they keep getting, up and down games. They've lost, 4 so far this season. Rams have 2 elite wide receivers. You can argue a better quarterback whenever it's all said and done. Maybe not win-loss, but Matthew Stafford, most people would take over Jalen Hurts right now. Much more, offensive-minded head coach who definitely, schemes and calls plays and figures things out. And yet, they barely win games here and there. They only put up this many yards here and there. I think they're a good football team. I think they're the best besides Philadelphia. But the double standards there. What I don't like is just these random, week 8, week 9, week 10, seemingly every single year shots from some random media member. And we both have said in our shows, we respect Derek Gunn. We understand that D-Gun has sources. But just to kind of casually throw out this whole, like, oh, there are people in the building that, geez, they hate Jalen Hurts and, he's handcuffing the organization and Carson Wentz 2.0 and then not give any more context. Not some high-level coach said this to me. Some starting player said this to me. Give us the actual source here instead of the janitor told you. It's just getting old. And these shots on Jalen Hurts, comparing him to Carson Wentz is like, did we watch the same Carson Wentz? Like, did anyone watch Carson Wentz post-2017? After the injury, he was never the same. Never played well in big games. Never played in big playoff games at all. And then we got hurt. I think the Seattle one. Is it his fault or not? I don't know. Clearly was not liked as a teammate. We've seen actual Eagle teammates come out and say that. The 2.0 part was the most, annoying to me in that report because it's like, these are two very different people who've done very different things win-loss wise for the city of Philadelphia.
Extremely different, yes. And I go back to turnovers. You mentioned that a second ago. But
oh my gosh.
Like, here's the thing. It's one of the many stats, but the turnovers themselves, under Nick Sirianni, the last 5 years, when the Eagles win the turnover battle, they're 40-2. 40-2. Like, take everything else out of it. Now, I know that a lot of those are nail-biters. Some of those you can say, well, it's luck. Could they actually do it again? Won by a blocked field goal. Like, wherever you want to go with that. But they have won games 40-2 if they win the turnover battle. Now, this is not if it's tied. It's winning the turnover battle, so understanding, they can change for that. But just winning the turnover battle. Now, Sirianni's made the case of, I see all these teams and, we just know how to have winning football. I see too many teams waiting to lose. We're waiting to win. And that's a very oxymoron because you're like, how does that work exactly? Because if you're waiting to win, I feel like you should assert your dominance and everything there. The Lions, going back to the point earlier as well, the Lions, give them credit. They beat up on bad teams. They don't wait around to score points. They will usually beat up on bad teams, and that's why you see the 40, 50 points that they'll put up on those. But when it comes to high-pressure leverage situations, like you were mentioning, Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense, it's boring. It's predictable at times, a lot of times, but the vast majority, they don't turn the football over. And I think that to their to the negative on this, they are relying so heavily on that now because the stats speak for themselves. The record speaks for itself that you can go back and look, hey, regardless of how terribly we played that game, we won the turnover battle and we won the game. So, sure, maybe we add in a few other elements to the offense here. We get a little bit more unpredictable, but not too much. Like maybe one pass over the middle, Jalen. Don't do that. One pass. Okay, back to, sticks, hand the ball off, inside zone. Cover up both hands, don't do anything crazy because it's just night and day difference of what the Eagles do versus almost every other team. And when you rank them near the top, right, because they're obviously 8-2, they are atop the NFC. But if you compare them to the other contenders, that's the difference that you see. I think way too many times the Eagles, and especially this year because they don't have the running game to run away from their opponent, no pun intended, but at the end of the game, this year, it's kind of like they're playing with their food. Even if it's a less than, stellar team or not as good of a team, they can't run away from it necessarily. The Giants game, was the one. But other than that, it doesn't matter who they've been playing. It's like, oh, well, here we go. Another anxiety-induced game because we can't finish this thing and the running game's not clicking. So it's not working there. Again, we go back to all the other arguments, who to blame. Play calling would certainly make this much, much easier on the offense. Maybe it can. You've seen them let Jalen out of his straitjacket, as he said in press conference last year after the Steelers game. So we know that it's possible. It's just, it's ridiculous. Like there's no words hardly to describe why it's this difficult, why they make it this difficult, other than playing so conservatively to say, you know what, if nothing else, we are not going to turn the football over and we're resting on our defense, which is very good. But it's like you got to play a little bit better offensively to get this thing done. Several other super chats really quickly. I don't want to get too far behind. I'll get to those. Owen with a 5. Where do you think we move this offseason with KP, given what's happened this year? Obviously, he has more time and the playoffs to keep himself here.
Yeah, obviously, if you win a couple playoff games, he's going to stay. If you make it to the NFC title game, he's for sure going to stay. If they go one and done in the playoffs and look bad doing it, because they're guaranteed to make the playoffs now, right? They're guaranteed, knock on wood. They should make the playoffs. It's be pretty hard to not make the playoffs. But if they go one and done, similar to the 2023 campaign with Brian Johnson, he's going to get axed just like Brian Johnson was. But if they win multiple playoff games and look good in multiple playoff games, then things are going to change and he'll probably stay for another season. Despite, I think most of us have seen enough to where, dramatic changes have to go ahead and come or else we're going to for sure want him gone.
Yeah, I think so too. Dylan with a 5. I'm honestly not worried about Dallas at all. Dak has 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions with an 81 rating against good defenses this year. I trust Jalen and this D. There we go.
That's a great point. And I said earlier that this Cowboy offense can score for sure. But the Dallas Cowboy fan base, especially all those loudmouths on Twitter, are acting like beating the Raiders on Monday Night Football is some sort of impressive win when we know the Las Vegas Raiders are about one of the worst organizations, top to bottom now in the National Football League. They're awful. I think it literally goes Tennessee and then probably the Raiders with how bad they've actually been. Can Dak score on Philadelphia? For sure. But this defense, even from week 1, whenever Philadelphia gave up yards in the first half, lightning delay, slowed them down, especially in the second half, didn't have Jaelan Phillips, did not have Jalen Carter. That's a massive miss that most people are forgetting from that game. And I could argue Nakobe Dean is the big ticket item right now that has completely unlocked Vic Fangio's defense with his coverage ability out of the backfield, and his blitzing ability has been much better than Jahad Campbell's was whenever he was the starter at the beginning of the season. And I think most of us thought it'd be the opposite there, that Campbell would be the better blitzer. Instead, it's been Nakobe Dean. That's why he's played so much. So Dallas is good. Dallas is much better, especially defensively. 5 new starters are back, including Quinyon Williams, who had more sacks in one game than he did, his entire season so far with the New York Jets. Their defense is greatly improved. The offense is virtually the same, but our defense is so much more improved from where it was in week 1. That's where you start to think that Dak will give you a couple picks. You're going to get a couple sacks, hopefully, on Dak. And then we're going to have to wait and see. But as we said, these November trips to Jerry World, historically, we think back to 2023, have been a problem. And my hope is that we're not going to have that problem all over again.
Yeah, please take care of business. The offensive line, as you mentioned there, Quinyon Williams, Osa Odigizua, also had a very, very impressive, I think the most pressures he's had in a game this season. So they're playing off of each other. This is not to, go over the top about Dallas, but I'm with you. I think it's going to be a tougher test than, say 2 or 3 weeks ago as we were watching Dallas going, oh man, this is, you'll get your offense right. No matter how you're playing, you'll score on them. Offensively, they're hit or miss. It will be different. But the flip side of that argument at the same time is like I've seen the same type of comments from Cowboys fans. Oh, just wait, like we're a different team now and everything. Fair, they're a different team for week 1, but so are the Eagles, like you were saying. The Jalen Carter, the Nakobe Dean, the Jaelan Phillips, and I'll be curious too. Maybe one of the biggest matchups, honestly, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is Adoree Jackson's been playing a lot better. He did give up a touchdown to Jameson Williams, but all in all, he's been playing much better. He had his issues in week 1. We know that. You got 2 guys in CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and you got to imagine they're probably going to test him with how good Q's been playing. It's like, all right, forget about wherever Q is, which side, just immediately look to the next direction. And Dak has been historically pretty good if it is pick on one player. But if Adoree can hold up or they give, help, safety adjustment, moving a guy a different direction there, then I think they'll be okay. But that is one of the big matchups, I think, for me.
And by the way, with Q, Vic Fangio has done a lot of different stuff with Quinyon Mitchell. Week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys, eventually, after Adoree got cooked early, he started shadowing CeeDee Lamb with Quinyon Mitchell. Did that a lot the first 5-6 weeks of the season. Past 2 weeks, he's been the boundary cornerback on the left side of the defense, if you're looking at the defense on this side, and stayed that way because I think they like the idea of shutting down one side of the field and then forcing everything else to the other, and Adoree's played well enough to hold that. My guess is Pickens is going to be taken out hopefully by Quinyon Mitchell, and then it's going to be up to Cooper DeJean and Adoree Jackson because DeJean's obviously in the slot to slow down CeeDee Lamb. If they can do it, they'll have a lot of success. Like Rich just said in the chat, Philly by +10. If they do that, then yes, Philly by +10. If not, then it'll be a big CeeDee Lamb night, and we'll all start questioning Adoree Jackson. Rinse, repeat, seemingly the past couple of weeks, but he has been greatly improved from that week 1 matchup, and so I think he's, hopefully going to be ready to go.
That he has. The spread is 3.5. Eagles 3.5 point
close.
favorites. So
it's close, for sure.
It's a little closer for my liking, but they still are favored. For what that's worth, and especially on an away setting. Cup with 5. Just got my tickets for the Bears game. There you go.
Okay.
Feels far in the future, but how we feel about that matchup. The crazy thing is, it's not far in the future. We're basically getting to Thanksgiving. Right? We're almost just a week away from that. But it should be a good game. Black Friday. Be streaming the day after Thanksgiving. Hopefully get a dub. Get to enjoy some good leftover food there from Thanksgiving, everything else. The Bears are good, though. They're a good team.
Chicago's very interesting. They run the football extremely well. They're like number 1 in rushing attempts, and they're up there in rush yards. The now kind of 1-2 punch of Swift and Monungai have been really good. And Caleb's not turning the ball over as much as he was, especially last season, and not getting sacked nearly as much, although he's definitely allowed a lot of pressures to come right into his face. It's the Bear defense that I'm going to question because Jalen Johnson will probably be back for that game. He's their top cornerback. They've definitely been exposed in the secondary for a vast majority of this season. It feels like, I don't know what it feels like. I almost want to say it feels like the Eagles right before they, went on a run in 2022. It feels like that they're about to be good. They're not quite ready to be a true 7-3 football team. Like we wouldn't take the Bears over Seattle right now, or LA, or Philly, Tampa, like all these teams you would take the other team over the Bears, but they're definitely a explosive team, a team that hits a lot of big plays. I think they're number 1 in the league and plays over 20 yards, and it's one that you cannot overlook because Philly has played Chicago a lot the past 5 years, and normally by this point in the season, it's kind of like a whatever game. This is one they're going to have to wake up on because if the Bears beat the Steelers, maybe without Aaron Rodgers this week, we'll see. They get to 8-3. They then beat Philadelphia. They have the tiebreaker, and their schedule the rest of the way. They play the Packers twice, and that's basically it. We keep talking about needing to beat NFC teams for the 1 seed. Chicago is definitely on that list of teams you got to beat, and if they do, the 1 seed gets more and more likely as we get closer to the end of December.
Right. And for the record, I know people will be like, oh, yeah, talk about the Bears being good. I didn't say they're great. The Bears are good. They're very beatable. I trust in Vic Fangio, so that's the other part. It's like, yes, they have a good offense, but with the way the defense is playing, I think the Eagles could certainly capitalize, and they've got the NFC North's number. Sirianni is undefeated. Jalen Hurts is undefeated. They've taken care of business, but on a short week, like you said, depending on how the Dallas game plays out, you got to get ready, gear up for that one. It should be a good game. I don't expect it to be. I hope it is. It would be fantastic. I don't think that it'll be a just ridiculous blowout, but maybe you capitalize. You've already beaten the Packers and the Lions and the Vikings, but you've already beaten them and controlled certainly from the flow of all those games. So wouldn't surprise me to do the same thing. Ginger with a 2. What's up, Joe? Says thoughts on reuniting Brian Daboll and Jalen Hurts. Gotten that one quite a bit.
Think about and obviously for those wondering, Alabama was the offensive coordinator.
Right.
That's the reunion there. Maybe, right? I mean, Dable seemingly his whole character arc as an NFL head coach or really coordinator, it peaks with Josh Allen, and then it kind of stays up there with Daniel Jones that first year until we beat him in the playoffs, and it's just completely nosedive since. And the whole problem in this year, he lost all his weapons, and then he kind of lost his cool. You kind of tell his back was against the wall. I would honestly rather have Mike McDaniel for the creativity, because I think McDaniel is one of these McVay-type guys who is not meant to be a head coach, but has the knowledge of an offensive coordinator and the scheming an offensive coordinator like a McVay to make sense as an OC. But I think I'd take Dable over Kevin Patullo right now. I think most Eagle fans would as well. He's not going to come in as some sort of, advice guy. I'm blanking on the word right now. Somebody just going to,
right, the consultant or
consult this season. But next year, if they fire Ken Patullo, they should at least interview him.
100%. Yeah. Again, it can't be worse. So there's probably multiple options, but let's see Dylan, there we go. There's with the 5, appreciate that. Says, anyone else notice we kind of play weird on primetime games in the regular season? Feels like 1 p.m., 3 p.m. games is when we play our best ball.
Yeah. I mean, kind of. Definitely the primetime games have all been weird, starting with the Giants all the way back when we got smoked by New York on Thursday night. We just haven't had a lot of these 1 o'clock games, it feels like. I know we think back to the Viking game. They definitely played better in that one. The Giant game was a 1 p.m. game. Have we played a 4 p.m. slate yet? Was this with the Chiefs maybe was a 4 p.m. slate? I'm trying to even remember.
Yeah, I think that
we haven't played a lot.
Yeah, you're right.
But you are correct. The primetime games have not been that good.
Last season wasn't bad, last season primetime. But again, that was a lot of those. We got to the point where it's like it didn't matter what time they're playing. But Jordan Mailata talked about that too. He said he prefers the 1 p.m. kickoff. He doesn't like just waiting around all day, especially if it's a home game. He's like, we're chilling, but it's like, it's kind of too early to get up there and just hang out at the facility, but you want to play and you don't want to wait. I don't know, for whatever reason they did. Yeah, I guess kind of, but we just need more consistency across the board. Dirty D with a 10, the 10 bomb.
There he is.
Dan. I believe Sirianni does not let KP create plays going across the middle of the field because those have a higher chance of turnovers. Calcaterra running more than 5 plays a game is malpractice.
Which, listen, I totally agree with Dan, by the way, and shout out Dan, friend of the show. We went golfed with him at Nolan Smith's charity golf tournament. I'm sure we'll see him again there this coming June or July, whenever it was. But he's right. The whole problem, though, with Nick Sirianni not wanting to turn the ball over ever is it's like, I would take 6 more turnovers in a season to score 6+ more points a game. Like, we would all have taken a Jalen Hurts pick against the Detroit Lions if we could, in turn, have more shots across the middle, have more deep shots down both the right and left side of the football field, more creativity. I am all for cutting it loose, but it does feel like deep down at the heart of the offensive problems is Jalen turned the ball over so much in 2023 that they basically sat him down and said, don't turn the ball over, we're going to win a Super Bowl. And then they did. And now this season, it's like, don't turn the ball over. We just won a Super Bowl. Just do it again. When it feels like if they could just make it, 10% more risky, add a couple more turnovers. They don't need to pick a game, but, they'd never turn the football over. I'm fine with a couple turnovers if it meant the offense is a little bit more unlocked. I think that most people would agree.
Yeah, it does need to be more creative and stuff. But that's the fine line because there's a part of it. Like, I hear what you're saying, but the other part's going, yeah, we'd be fine with a pick if it meant for some more creativity and everything else with the lines. But what if that was the difference? It's all hypothetical, but what if that's the difference? All of a sudden, there's a pick. Detroit had the momentum, they scored, we lose.
Sure.
So, and I get that part. It's like they still won the game. It's ugly. It doesn't feel sustainable. We've seen all the graphics, all the stats. We talked about it. But somehow the offense is just relying on the defense. And that may be the craziest part because of how much, you mentioned or we've mentioned in the past, like the offense and how much they get paid compared to the defense, and the defense being as young as it is. And yet the defense is obviously carrying the vast majority of this team every single game to go, especially lately because they found their stride since the bye week or right before. But it's like, well, we know that they're a really good defense. We talked about it before the season to say, hey, they have a chance, fully believe this, a chance to be better than last year. And some people kind of after that, like, that's historic, that was a historic defense. But they're right there. I mean, they're knocking at the door. If they keep up this consistency the rest of this season, you could very easily say that they're at the same level, if not beyond that. And then it comes down to, as ridiculous as it is to say, with all the weapons the Eagles have, be an average defense. Be an average defense, and you get the job done. Trent with a 2. If we hire bum Dayball, I'll go on hunger strike. So,
see, I think a lot of people are kind of fed up with with Brian Daboll. I think that, again, Josh Allen was a long time ago. 2022, when they went to the playoffs, year one was a long time ago. And I think ever since then, it's kind of been like, he's had all these opportunities to kind of get things going with New York and hasn't been able to do it. And his problem is that his team blows a ton of leads, and yet despite that, they have this great defense, which he's the head coach. He's a part of that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd rather have Mike McDaniel over him, but I would probably take him over Ken Patullo as we currently stand. But that's all hypothetical. We don't know what they're going to be like in March or, late January if they were to lose a first playoff game and then fire Patullo immediately. It's all going to be very interesting.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, or you just figure it out after a Super Bowl maybe. That would be obviously the best case scenario and what everybody's hoping for. But Dirty D with the 5 more says, Lions are averaging 30 points a game. We are averaging, 18 or so also. We are paying our offense like $240 million. So it goes to the point of how much we're paying them. Yeah, it's not great. It's more than 18 because of, a couple of the offensive explosions or more so putting up the 30 points, which depends on which stat you actually take. Some of those are just team points and some are offensive points. So team points will credit some of the special team scores that happened in the Rams or the defensive score against the Bucks. But it's not great. I mean, it's crazy, the extreme differences of where you see the defenses versus the offense, and yet somehow 8-2. Some people said it's not possible. It doesn't seem possible, not sustainable. Energizer with a 10. Is there a chance that they don't want to open the playbook to keep the full potential for the playoffs? As long as they win, they don't need to show everything. #GoBirds from Luxembourg.
We hear this every single year, and if that's true, then they didn't want to show the playbook versus the Green Bay Packers the first game of the playoffs, and then decided the second and third that they did want to go ahead and show, or the second, third, and fourth. Even though I guess the offense did struggle a lot passing wise against the Rams, but there was snow. I don't buy that. We are at a point where just give us your full playbook. You don't have to save anything because nothing's guaranteed right now. If Philadelphia, Josh, ends up being the 4 seed, their path to getting back to the Super Bowl, I don't think a lot of Eagle fans would bet on them to go ahead and make it all the way back. Your entire life savings as the 4 seed. You got to open up with Chicago or open up with Detroit or open up with Seattle, depending on if the Rams will win that division, then go on the road and play a Detroit, a Seattle, the Rams, then go on the road and play a Detroit, Seattle, or Rams, whatever it is. You don't want to be the 4 seed. You don't want to be the 3 seed. They have got to be the 1 or the 2. 1, we're feeling very confident about the repeat chances. 2 home games at the Link. I mean, come on. The second one, you at least get a low-seeded or the lowest-seeded NFC team, depending on what it looks like in the wild card round. But you still got to play 3. So this whole idea of like, we're just saving it, no, we're just going to wait. No more waiting. Pull it out this week against the Dallas Cowboys. Use it the following week versus the Chicago Bears. Use it again the rest of the way. Got to play the Chargers and the Raiders. Get the 1 seed no matter what. And then you should, if you're a good offensive coordinator, have even more wrinkles for the playoffs. But we know that's probably not the case.
Yeah. And, again, like I'm saying, same deal. I understand because we've seen a lot of those types of counters, several, over the past couple seasons. It's just, not even listen to just Eagles players or coaches. Listen across the league. Coaches everywhere, they're fighting for their jobs. There's no way that you can convince me a coach is going to go, you know what? I'm gonna save some stuff. I'm gonna hold some things back, because I'm confident enough in winning. It's hard to win in the NFL. It's incredibly hard to win in the NFL. Regardless of what team you have, it's hard to get these wins. And I cannot buy the fact that someone, Kevin Patullo, for example, would go, yeah, I know that the inside zone, the spamming that, and the hitch routes are not really the best recipe for success, but you know what? We can eke out wins. We won't turn the ball over, and we can eke out wins and then just wait for the playoffs, and we're going to just open up this playbook, and it's going to get aggressive here, and it's going to be totally different because you never know. You could have an injury, and all of a sudden, a season that was going well turns sideways, or you just lose games that were like, oh, we thought we could actually win those, and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And these that come down to the wire, and all of a sudden, it's like, well, did you wait too long? Because then if you try to say, oh, now we need our playbook, now we need to change something, can you even make the playoffs? So I kind of get the, playing devil's advocate or the provocative statement there is like, oh, maybe they're hiding it. But it's absolutely crazy that they're not doing that for a job in the NFL. A lot of times you only get one chance to prove yourself, certainly for a first time of any sort, whether it's a play caller or a head coach. KP, and if it's Sirianni, which I do believe Sirianni's heavily involved, I also don't think that Sirianni
sure.
would hamstring him that way to go, hey KP, we're gonna hold you back here, right? Because he still
Right.
wants the best for Kevin Patullo. As bad as it's gotten, I still believe that Sirianni wants KP to succeed as much as possible. It's just they continue to go with the same old, script for games and not sequencing play callings, and it's been difficult. But
Yep, totally agree.
Still 8-2 though, still getting it done.
Yep.
Somewhat. Flipping the bird, what's up? The 5 there says Cowboys has trap game written all over it. Defense has to bring it. I predict the offense will finally click in Jerry world. Here we go. It says 31-16 Eagles.
I hope you're right. It is a trap
great.
game. We just talked about that. It's a trap game because the Dallas defense is much better. And it's a trap game because this is an explosive Cowboy offense that could theoretically score some points. And if the Eagles start down 13-0, start down 10-0, and the offense isn't looking good, do we have confidence that they're going to suddenly, light it up down the football field and just look like, oh, wow, it's 2024 all over again? I'm not so sure. I mean, the Ram game is kind of the one game where they panicked and it worked out pretty well. They were no chance being able to do it in the New York Giant game, and they definitely couldn't do it in the second half versus the Denver Broncos. So we have the one example of a second half deficit where they're able to throw their way to victory, and that's basically it. So, yeah, it's a trap game if the Cowboys jump out to a lead. It could be a little bit of a interesting Sunday afternoon. If they lose to the Cowboys and look bad, Josh, it's going to be a rough week.
Yeah, at least it'd be a short week, but we don't even want to think that way.
Yes.
So you just move on and take care of business and then worry about Chicago. It is difficult, too, and we talk about how many times you have a home game and away game, There's no rhythm to it, and Detroit has 3 straight home games. They had to come to Philly, and now they have 3 straight home games. The Eagles can't get 2 of those. It's the difficult schedule. It's the most difficult schedule for a reason. It's maybe an excuse or whatnot, but it's everything combined, and they just got to find some sort of consistency there. Anthony with the 5, that might be a false positive on Adoree Jackson. His success, in my opinion, is contingent upon the front's performance, which luckily, as of late, has been great.
Maybe.
They are
I mean,
combined or
maybe
married together, but
right. They're definitely combined and married together. No one is saying that Adoree Jackson is some cornerback one. I think they're just saying that the expectation was that Adoree was going to lose this job by now, and Jacorian Bennett, Keely Ringo. And it's not been the case because he has played well enough. 1 catch on 6 targets against Amon Ra St Brown on Sunday, even with the really good pass rush. And that's very, very hard to do. And he played very, very well. And until he starts playing bad, they're going to ride with him until hopefully the end of the season because that means he's playing well the entire time.
Yes. Shout out to Anthony DeBona, Ant-Man in the chat.
There he is.
He is the
What up, Anthony?
In-house resident supporter of number 1 fan Adoree Jackson. But
yes, he is.
He kept on saying, I felt like Adoree might be the guy, and he's called it up to this point. He's playing better, so we'll see. It's got a great test on Sunday. Anthony with 2 more. Dayball equals Josh McDaniels 2.0.
Yeah, unless Josh McDaniels is the Patriot offensive coordinator, then he does a pretty good job. Any other place McDaniels goes, he stinks. But for the Patriots, not bad. He's been great with Drake May so far this season. That's a very interesting team and the AFC is way weaker than the NFC. There's a real scenario where maybe they're the 1 seed, maybe they're the 2 seed, and you're hosting playoff games at Foxborough in January. It could be interesting.
Yeah, it's the NFL it's nuts. Like there's no predictability. The power rankings are all over the place. If you're 1, Colin Cowherd said this I think earlier as well. It's just the power rankings in itself. But if you're 1 or 10, it could very easily see the 10th ranked team on his power rankings upsetting or beating the 1 seed, and it wouldn't even be a shock. You could even go further than that because of the way the NFL's played out this year. Hard to win games, and there's not a juggernaut up to this point. Ultraman with a 5. Hey guys, I just want the Eagles to come together as a team. I'm riding with Jalen. I'm riding with Jalen. Haters gonna hate.
I think that's how we should be because we have no other choice. Option A. And B, we understand that there's a lot of problems that are not Jalen Hurts in this offense. And if you want to be the guy that says Jalen Hurts is a terrible quarterback and they dumbed down the offense because of him, sure, you can argue that, but then you have to ignore 2022 and you have to ignore the Super Bowl run in 2024. So you're going to ignore his 2 most important seasons and instead look at other seasons where he was the first year, really as a starter, which doesn't count at all, where he was a bad quarterback. Or 2023, we had a terrible offensive coordinator and a horrible defense. We forget that till he's pressing a little bit more, turning the ball over a little bit more. It's just a hard argument to make that this is all Jalen Hurts' fault. So I agree.
Yeah, that's a good point that you make there as well. It's like when you knew your defense was going into any game, you knew your defense was going to give up 24, 30 points, and it didn't matter basically who we were playing.
Yeah.
Offensively, you also kind of go into the game going, all right, well, we got some more pressure on us because we're not expecting to win anything if we're scoring 20 points, let alone below 20 points. So, it probably changes a little bit plan or game prep on that. Devin with a 5. I'm behind, but John McMullen said the same thing D-Gun said, and he said players are saying it. This had to be real if many people are talking about it in terms of, I guess, frustration with Jalen Hurts.
Did John McMullen say that? I never saw him actually say that, but I'm assuming that he did.
I don't know to think otherwise from Devin here, but at the same time, I've also not heard it personally. So
yeah.
Would be curious to, I guess, hear that clip in its full context, because I don't know if that's again, like if it's a full blown, very pointed towards Jalen, I guess we could see, but at the same time, I don't knock or believe if it's more so of a, well, hey, players are frustrated about the offense and they're frustrated with the offense, and does the quarterback get more of the blame? Sure, because he's the quarterback. Like that's fair if they're frustrated in that respect. But if it's going to the extreme, like we were talking about earlier, Carson Wentz 2.0 situation, that's one of those where it seems a little bit extreme to be able to try to go to that level, especially what we've seen this team be, and some of the other comments from other players, at least publicly on the press conferences, for backing it up. But
well, and as somebody who is not talking to players asking this specific question, like you and I are not, we're not trying to dig in there and ask people that we know in the organization what's going on. But as someone who has met Jalen Hurts twice in person, someone who's not his friend, has not spent time with him other than the 2 times, he is a very, I don't know what the word is. He's not super friendly. He hasn't been super friendly when I've met him the 2 times. He's been very reserved. He's been very quiet. He's been very kind of by the book, very nice, but he's not necessarily been like, hey, what's up? Like a lot of other players have been to us. So I could totally see where the offense is struggling and people are trying to kind of connect with Jalen on what's going on. And maybe he's just not like connecting with them on a personal level or being super friendly to them. And that's what's kind of turning them off a little bit here, because it's just kind of business as usual. He doesn't kind of, lighten up a little bit, even though we get, videos like the one in the locker room last week where he's dapping people up and having fun. So maybe that's not even true. But I could see maybe if you're frustrated on offense and Jalen is kind of just like the main thing and kind of blinders on like he always is, which we like about him, maybe that's frustrating people a little bit here. But this whole idea that everybody just hates Jalen Hurts and that they're like, man, it's just Jalen Hurts. If we had Tanner McKee in there, we'd be so much better. I just don't buy that. And again, what players are these people talking to? I could see A.J. Brown doing this right now because clearly A.J. Brown is frustrated. I think most of us say rightfully so. But is Devontae Smith saying it? Is Dallas Goedert saying it? Is Jordan Mailata saying it? Or is it, I don't know, some of the other players on this team? We just don't know.
Yeah.
And to get and all these reports are always so frustrating because it's like, we would love more details to know exactly for sure what's going on. And instead, we get little clips and little hints of like, I heard this. And it just makes it sound like, I don't know, we don't know what's going on. And then we speculate like we have been for the last 45 minutes and it goes nowhere. And then we sit back and in the end and just kind of wait and see Jalen Hurts win games and then we forget about it. So I don't know. It's interesting. But again, we met him twice. You and I met him twice. He is not super bubbly like other players are. We met him. Then we immediately met Zach Bond. And Zach Bond, what's up, guys? How's it going? Super cool, really fun to talk to. And that's not a knock against Jalen Hurts, just his personality. And everybody knows that. And maybe that kind of runs people the wrong way when things aren't going well. I don't know. But I'm just not buying this whole idea that he's hated by everybody because it's like, oh my gosh, I hate Jalen Hurts, because we've seen plenty of examples that are the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, well, and I go back to what Anthony said on the live stream last night, talking about the differences between the D-Gun report and the Jeff McClain report, where Jeff McClain, the Inquirer, was saying, like, I hear what you're talking about, but get it from me, and I do believe that I'm more plugged in than anybody else, and it's not raised to the level of near the concern or frustration that you guys are talking about it. So, again, you got a source off and everything there, but as Anthony shared as well, it's like you go back historically and look at what's happened in the Eagles locker room, especially during the 2023 season, how that was. Jeff McClain has tended to be on that side of, if there's drama, you're going to hear something reported on that. So the fact that he's actually dispelling that rumor and going, it's not near to the extreme that what you're hearing, it gives credit to that side as well. But again, it's in the day and age of like, who knows? Who knows? Because both could have sources that are telling them those things. And, maybe you have one guy who is more of a frustrated situation, total speculation, but like an A.J. Brown, and it is trying to make it more than it is, or maybe a Devontae Smith, and is trying to just, poke a little bit more in an area because there is frustration with the offense. Or it could be a lesser player or a member of the organization who's just trying to, put something out there because there have been some odds sometimes of like, oh, why are they playing like this? But at the end of the day, I'm not overly concerned about it. We've seen Jalen Hurts win, as we've said. I mean, especially in the biggest moments when the lights are brightest. I'm not concerned. Two men with a 5. I feel like Hurts turnovers in 23 had to deal with him feeling a lot of pressure to score. Okay, see, there we go. That was what you were saying. Score because our defense was so bad. 100%.
Yep.
He doesn't feel the need to now if you've got a defense, especially to the level that he has. And remember as well, like Jalen played at Bama. He knows what it's like to play with a really good defense. And at times, Nick Saban's even said this too. He would tell the offense to score, like to not score as quickly. Smitty's had been to this. He went on the podcast with Patrick Surtain, and he's like, we would score in 1 or 2 plays, and Saban would come over and be like, quit scoring so fast, because he wanted his defense to have some more rest. Now, there's a fine line there. Obviously, you're wanting to put up points, but there is the time of possession and trying to calculate these things out. And so you do wonder if that plays a factor also in Jalen's head. I know the play calling we go back to. We said this throughout this whole stream here. It's a lot on that side, but there is maybe an element to it as well. Jalen going, I got a really good defense behind me. Like, needless turnovers are not going to help us here, and so it could be maybe there's some more conservativeness, and if that's amplifying the receivers or whoever it is in the on the team or in the organization of going like, man, we're frustrated because Jalen's just not taking some of those chances, or he's not letting it fly as quick as he could or would. Okay, maybe there's something to that, but it's all pieced together. It's never one thing, as we've said a million times. Parsifal with a 2, worried about Cowgirls until I saw the Kelly Green. Wearing the Kelly Green.
I could totally see the Eagles being strategic on when they're going to use Kelly Green months ago and being like, that Cowboy game, we always have trouble. It's a pivotal part of the schedule. They're probably thinking you just came off the Packers and Lions, might have lost one of those games. Let's give them the Kelly Green and make sure that they win. And so I'm all for it. It'd be sad if they eventually lose in the Kelly Greens, and I hope it's not on Sunday.
Yeah, you got to keep the perfect record for those.
Yep.
Green Wingman with a 50 bomb.
Whoa.
Appreciate that. The 50. Let's go. Says to Josh's response, if being a little aggressive could cause a tick up in interceptions that lead to a loss, then we can revert back to conservative style of offense. Eagles have built a cushion and in prime position to get the number 1 seed. They have nothing to lose.
Yeah, see, and that's kind of my argument too. Like, now I don't want to lose. I would much rather not turn the ball over, look bad on offense and win, than turn the ball over, look good on offense and lose. But if you could find somewhere in the middle where it's like, okay, sure, they threw a pick. Oh no, that's terrible. Then they win by 10 versus winning by 3. It's like, I would take that. I think most people would. It's basically just an argument against this whole idea that of this perception that Nick Sirianni is like, no turnovers, whatever we do. Whatever happens on offense, we're not going to turn the football over. And I think that's his mindset. And it's not a bad mindset, but if it's hurting you to the point where eventually you're not going to be able to score 13 points in a game and you're going to lose to one of these teams, I think maybe you take it 10% back. You dial it back 10% on the don't turn the football over at all, because then maybe it opens the playbook up 10% more with the throws of the middle we want to see, or the shots here and there, and gives them a little bit more of a flair on offense that we're looking for. That's all my argument is. I don't need more interceptions. I mean, I'm fine with Jalen Hurts never turning the football over again, but if it could just make the offense unlocked a little bit more, then we have an argument here to go ahead and maybe push for it. But whatever I say about it doesn't matter. It would take Nick Sirianni saying it, and he says it every single time that they win by like 1 point or 3 points, 1 score. Hey, didn't look pretty. I thought they didn't turn the football over, and that's what I want them to do. That's why you win football games. And he says that every single post-game press conference, and so it's not like he's going to change anytime soon.
Right, yes. And again, like you could go to it, you can find a happy medium. So it's not like just saying, oh, you get aggressive and immediately you have the turnovers, because look at Matthew Stafford. He had, 21 straight touchdown passes without an interception. So to start the year, or did not start the year, but after a couple games, a 21-0 over the course of whatever it was, like 6 games or something. So he's on an incredible tear. Now, you look at that and say the schedule that they were playing was not to the same extent of the Eagles and all the other things that come into that. But yeah, there's a happy medium that goes in for both of those sides. Let's see. I had a couple other super chats, or a lot of those I'm going to get to. Poncho with the 5. Agree on Dable, but would it hurt at all to maybe hire him as a consultant at this point? Higher chance that or Leffler getting to call offense over KP?
No one's ever. I mean, we're just now getting to start talking about Leffler as being the new play caller, and I am all for it. By the way, all for at least trying that out if they continue to struggle, because Scott Leffler, unlike Ken Patullo, has a serious track record, albeit in college, of being the play caller of his offense and doing some really good stuff, scheming, even at Bowling Green. Richard Harold Fannin, a Bowling Green tight end, and one of the top tight ends in the NFL draft that had good tight ends ahead of him. I mean, Harold Fannon's been great in the NFL. So I am very much interested, if this continues, to demote Ken Patullo. The problem is it's kind of this point of no return, Josh, right? Like, remember back in 2023, they demote Sean Desai, they elevate Matt Patricia, and after that, it was like, well, they did it, and now they got to ride it out, and it was awful. And you could argue it was worse, because there were at least some decent games there from Sean Desai. So it is a point of no return. They would have to know for sure, but maybe just do it without telling us, Stick Ken Patullo aside. He still has a little play sheet, still doing this. But, on the other side of the huddle, there's Scott Leffler being like, actually, we're going to run trip right 45.
Yeah,
that would be great.
It's be crazy. Yeah, you think they can keep that under wraps?
Probably not.
The Jalen Hurts frustration, if there's just an inkling of a rumor that way, yeah, that would get out so quickly. Timmy said earlier too on just the comment section, was saying it was an agent of a player that leaked it, or that's his belief. So that's actually, I wouldn't be surprised about that either if it's an agent of a player. If a player saying, hey, we're frustrating the offense, a little bit of stuff there, but again, then it becomes the telephone game. So whoever says it. Damon's with a 10, appreciate that. Says, what's up, fellas? Go Birds. I think it's going to take a major blowout for the Eagles to change things. Go Birds. Appreciate the Damon's.
Yeah, maybe they get it this
true.
week. If they blow out, listen, their schedule, and I was just about to pull this up just so I know exactly what the schedule looks like. This schedule is ripe to have a blowout win, because you literally play the Dallas defense, which improved based on 1 week versus the Raiders, but that's the Raiders.
Yeah.
Then you have the Bears, whose defense is very hit or miss, very opportunistic, turn the football over against them maybe, but not like they're holding people to 5 points a game, whatever it is. The Chargers have been an absolute nightmare roller coaster to be on this season, where they're just doing this week in and week out, and their defense is not that great. The Raider defense is awful. You want your blowout. That should definitely be one. Then Commanders, Bills, Commanders. Those are 3 also not so great defenses. Buffalo's defense has been extremely suspect, especially since losing a couple of defensive linemen the past couple of weeks. And the Commanders' defense is like 90 years old. This schedule is ripe to get right against, because we have gotten past all the Bucks of the world, the Broncos of the world, the Rams, the Chiefs. I mean, literally, we have played the Chiefs defense, the Ram defense, the Buck defense, the Bronco defense. The Giant defense twice should, on paper, be good. Viking defense, Packer defense. I mean, there's a lot of good defenses that they face. Everybody from here on out does not have a very good defense. And so hopefully the Commodore is correct and we get that blowout win that we've been looking for.
Yes. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Damon's was talking about it more so if we need a major blowout for the Eagles to change things, get beat badly. But I mean, I see what you were saying as far as just a blowout, and
sure,
I think that would also course correct in the sense of building some confidence and some momentum.
But it didn't really happen with the Giant game. The Giant game we thought was going to be that kind of Tampa Bay game from last year, where they just immediately shot out of a cannon after that game. They had the Browns, then they shot out of a cannon. That's not really been the case this season, because it was the Giant loss. Yeah. Then the Bronco loss, and then it was like, we'll see. So
we also played some lesser teams like that. That's the hard part to gauge, and that's why it's like, you look at different seasons. I know there's some comparison, trying to do the analytics on it, everything else. Yes, are there issues? Absolutely. Do things need to change? For sure, but it's not fair to also go like, well, okay, coming out of the bye, the Eagles this season compared to last year, they had the Browns. Mm-hmm. They had the Browns, the Jaguars, drawing a blank on those first 3 opponents last season. It was not near the tough schedule that it was coming out of the bye week this year. This year is like, oh, hey, you got to go to Green Bay, and in a freezing cold game, so that affects offenses, and then you follow that up with another primetime game against Detroit, who has publicly told the world that you're their Super Bowl, in a freezing cold, windy game. So there's other factors that have played in this, combined with the common denominator that we all realize is the Eagles' offense is not taking advantage. They're not capitalizing. They're not running the right things. And, maybe they can get stuff a little bit better on track, but, they do have teams, like you were pointing out, just going down the list. They do have teams to potentially get in a better spot. Adam with a 2, appreciate that, says we need more designed quarterback runs. That is true. Also, Adam, I didn't respond back, but I did see your comment earlier about it could be worse. It could be worse.
It could be much
Chip
worse.
Kelly's offense and be, I think,
Holy cow.
31st offense in the league.
Yeah, and paying him $6 million a year, the most of any offensive coordinator, could be a lot worse.
Yeah, and have a stud running back who we decide to run 6 times in a game and not really give the ball to at all. So I don't know what he's doing there. That's not going to last. Anthony with a 2. Why did we abandon the RPO again? It's a $1 million question.
No
clue.
clue.
A lot of us are wondering as well.
No idea. I have no idea. No idea. Beats me.
If I've seen some people say, they had too many penalties last year because there was linemen downfield. There were some, but that would be an argument if the Eagles were having good offense without it. They're not. So at this point, it's like, if that's your fear of like, one out of every 5 plays, 1 out of every 10 RPOs is going to come back because of a lineman downfield, then who cares? Call it, because you're not getting anything, especially on first and second down. It's been so bad, near the very bottom. Alex with a 5. Nick needs to be gone with KP. Any decent coach can have a similar record with this roster. #fire Nick. #go birds. That's the difficulty, because it's so hard to win in the NFL. And yes, they have a really good roster, but other teams are right. There's not a lot that sustains success, as bad as it's been, as the ebbs and flow, and even in the midst of a season. So even for the knocks that people have of Jalen Hurts is a winner. It may not be the prettiest. It may be ugly a lot of times, and maybe there's conservative on Jalen's part. Maybe it's the offensive coordinator. It's a combination of everything there, but they still find ways to win. And the team so far, we had it happen last year. People going, Nick Sirianni needs to be fired. We were critical of him, certainly, especially before the bye week. It's like, this is a bad decision. Shouldn't have done it. Mm-hmm. And then right the ship. And the team consistently had his back. You didn't get those reports. And we were wondering, if this thing goes south, at what point are you going to get reports of players that are done with Nick Sirianni? But it didn't happen. So
didn't happen. Nope.
I think he's here to stay for better or worse, however people feel about that. But yes, it'd most likely be a new offensive coordinator, though, if they do that. Dylan with a 2, hire Brian Johnson. No.
Don't think he's going to be let go by the Bears anytime soon, because that team is very different. Very different.
Brian Johnson.
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
but that
Ben
one is
Johnson.
also not happening.
Not
so
Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
Sorry, not Brian Johnson. I guess he's still with the Commanders, right? I believe he's still there.
If I'm not mistaken, the pass game coordinator. So they've got their own problems, their own issues. Ethan with a 5. Hey, fellas, hope all is well. Ethan, what's up? I want everyone to eat Publix fried chicken if they're able. Go Birds, baby. Stay blessed.
The secret. Yep, that is the secret for sure. We're trying.
The wins.
We're trying to spread the word.
I'm getting close to starting the rally stash. It was more so we needed wins last year, not just necessarily the offense. But at this point, I might give it a go. If that's what helps us to score over 20 points, let alone 30.
Sure.
What the heck? You try for one game. If it doesn't work, you can always go back. I don't know. We'll see what Sandy says on that. Several super chats here. Going to run through those as we're getting up close to the hour. So appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Devin said, McMullen said Wentz without religion, I guess was his comment. Like he's like,
did he really say that?
Religion without the religion.
No, John McMullen didn't say that. I'd be shocked if he said that.
I'd have to see the clip. I mean, feel free.
Yeah.
We'd love to see it.
Send us the clip.
Please.
Yeah.
We're not, it's like, I mean, for one, Jalen's a believer, so I don't know where that falls in. Is it like to the extreme on that, or I don't
weird. Yeah, I don't
where that goes from.
I've looked from McMullen's comments, but I've not seen it yet. So just
you would imagine that would have already surfaced, but maybe not. If you have, again, please tag us. Social medias, let us see it.
Yeah.
Owen with a 5. Tom Pelissero just made his top 24 young head coach candidates. I saw this for 2026.
I saw that.
Somehow KP was on that list. I think all of Philly is hoping this happens.
Well, it's just because he's the Philly OC, and the Philly OCs always get hired. That's the only reason why. And I bet he will get an interview. Brian Johnson got head coaching interviews, did he not? Even after as disastrous as it was. So
he did, yeah. He got multiple.
They interview everybody. They interview everybody. They'll interview KP, but no one's going to hire KP.
Right.
If the season ended today, if they win a Super Bowl, they will definitely, convince themselves maybe. But no, I don't think so.
Yeah. Looks like multiple people in the comment section are saying that John McMullen said that on a live. So
Wow.
Okay. I would still love to see that. If you got the
Wow.
clip of which live it was on and where that was, but
Sure.
I don't know. Haven't seen it from others, and again, there's refuting reports, so that's where it's like, who knows what to believe?
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
no idea.
Yep.
And if he did see that, I mean, I'll gladly look at it and watch it. But I
Sure.
wouldn't say that John McMullen is making stuff up. But again, then you do wonder, okay, who's the source? And that's what it comes back to. It's a source off, and both reporters could be right. They're doing their job, like we've talked about, but. Ultimately, is there any agenda? Who's the person, player, executive, coach? Who's the person that's saying that? Alex with the 2. Just win, baby. Al Davis. There's the quote there.
They definitely keep doing that. That's for sure. Boy, this would be a very different organization if they weren't winning right now. A very different organization if they weren't winning right now.
Lots of struggles, lots of everything else that we'd be talking about if that was not the case. Chad with a 5. Do you guys think if Wilson and BVS didn't get hurt, they'd be able to scheme the offense differently? I do. I very much. I will say this. Like, I've always been on the since the start of this year, or even back during training camp. But Johnny Wilson makes a much bigger impact than people will give him credit for. Way bigger. And especially when you look at how little the Eagles have run 11 personnel this year. Johnny was a cheat code in 11 personnel because he's a tight end out there on the field who would line up as a receiver. Now, I know we all realize this. He was not a great receiving option. He wasn't ever going to get a whole lot of targets. He dropped one in the Super Bowl. That's his rookie card picture. You know, not the greatest MO for catching. But when it comes to blocking, even compare him with Dallas Goedert. Like, he was probably your best blocker that was not an offensive lineman when he was on the field. And so when you march him out there and have another team that goes, well, do we go in nickel? Or do we stay in base and risk it in case they try to match up Johnny Wilson against a linebacker? That was the change for it. And it's not, the holistic change for, the offense is, running for 200 yards a game with Johnny Wilson out there. But I do believe if Johnny was out there, you'd see more 11 personnel alignments. You'd see other plays off of it. And if nothing else, you'd probably have a little bit better situations than a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. Your average might be a 3rd and 5. So it's better. It's not the end all be all, but I do think that Johnny Wilson, and who knows about Ben Van Sumer? We didn't see enough sample size for BVS, but possibly so.
Yeah, my only take on that, we got a lot more super chats that just popped up, but my only take on that is that if you can't scheme an offense because you don't have Johnny Wilson, it's like, okay. You still have A.J. Brown and about this, and I know that you're not saying that, but I've seen people be like, Johnny Wilson would unlock the running game to the point that it's like, that's the difference. Johnny Wilson would help, but Johnny Wilson is not the end-all be-all of this offense. And if Kevin Patullo needs Johnny Wilson to become a top 20 offense versus where he's at, like 27, then we got bigger problems than Johnny Wilson.
Well, I know.
But I agreed with the fact that he's like a unicorn and the fact that when he's on the football field, he's a great blocker, and defenses don't know what kind of base or nickel to run against him. Yeah,
and also you look at and it goes back to Sirianni too, because they're marching Grant Calcaterra out there. So that's also a whole other story. It's like, why? Why does Calcaterra keep getting put out there?
He shouldn't be. Yes.
He shouldn't be out there. Johnny Wilson is a good player, but there's so many things that you could just pick apart and go, why? Why is it so difficult? And why can just about everyone else see it? And the Eagles refrain from changing or refrain from adding just a little bit more wrinkles, a little bit more unpredictability. It is kind of crazy. Anthony with a 5 more. Appreciate that. Get through these super chats. Someone asked in the chat, do you guys work with Philly Mike or have plans to in the future? We've had Philly. I've done at least a couple. I know for sure one. I think I've done multiple.
Twice maybe?
For the streams. But yeah, during the season, obviously everything's so like hectic, schedule, news, lives. We have our, breakdown on the Wednesdays and then the game stream and everything else. So not as much during the season. Not that it's impossible. I will say that. Shout out to Mike. But in the off season, those are usually when it's a little bit easier to be had. But we watch all the other Eagles YouTube content creators. So we appreciate, shout out Philly Mike. Gotten the hook up there. I forgot who he had. I'm trying to blank now. He had somebody else that was on the off season that had, well, I guess he had Slay a long time ago.
I don't remember. He had Slay a while back.
Somebody else. We've done that in the past. Let's see. Later, I think is how I would say that. Later with a 10. It seems like when QB1's back is against the wall in terms of the media, he lights up the opposing team. I predict a blowout with the defense destroying Dak.
That was the Steeler game last year. We forget this happened last year. Yeah. That was the Steeler game. So is that what y'all want to see? That's how he opens his press conference on Sunday evening, a couple days from now.
That would be so good. And of course, whenever we brought back up Grant Calcaterra Anthony's back in the chat. Did someone say Grant Calcaterra?
Yeah.
He's one of the major
Anthony
against that.
hates
So
Grant
yes,
Calcaterra, and
understandably
rightfully
so. Yes,
he hates him.
Oh my gosh, he did apologize to Brett Toth, but I don't think
Yes.
Can't Blockatera is getting an apology anytime soon because he's not shown anything worthy of it.
Right.
Leon with a 10. Let's be honest, we would not be talking about any of this if we actually hired an OC that knew what he was doing. 2 times now, we've handed a talented roster to an inept OC. Go Birds, Dallas sucks.
And that is Nick
That's
Sirianni,
true.
right? At the heart of it,
Yep.
Sirianni makes those decisions, and Sirianni likes his guys. And I think I would too. If I was a head coach, I want my boys to be there with me. But yeah, when they went outside the organization, Steichen, and obviously with Kellen Moore, it worked. Inside, it didn't. We have 4 years of clear evidence there. And so hopefully they make the right decision going into year 5.
Yep. We had so many questionable decisions, but it keeps on being the same thing. Dame is with a 10. Another thing about this Jalen Hurts slander, which pisses me off, by the way, no matter what he does, it won't matter. National media and most fans want that great white hype quarterback. I mean, I don't know
It's
if
not a race
thing.
It's
because
not
you
a
do
race
have
thing.
some others that you have at the power rankings, the Lamar Jackson.
Sure.
But I do think that Jalen, and for whatever it is, the shortcomings, the conservativeness, the way the play style, how it looks, the tush push merchant, you know, all the things that we've seen throw out there, he does not get the same level of credit, and he does not get the same level of fair criticism when you see it. Because we brought up Justin Herbert earlier. We brought up some other times. Lamar Jackson
Patrick
threw
Mahomes
0
is
touchdowns and 2
stinking this year.
interceptions, right, against the Browns. And they won, so everyone's kind of like, oh, yeah, no, you know, it's the Browns. They're a tough defense, but you just kind of move on. It's like, hold up. He played poorly. He played really badly. Where are we going with this? So it's not a fair level of criticism.
Oh, man.
Fanny with a 10. We have the elements working against us in Dallas, so to speak. The curtains at the stadium, that's true. Later start, the sun,
that's
curtains
right.
at the stadium. They have a good offense. Divisional game doesn't matter who they beat previously. Won't be an easy win. That is the take
we've
there.
said that. We've said that. We totally agree.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a fairly close game. I still think the Eagles can get it done, but I do think it'll be close. John with a 5. Gunn heard it from Rossini. Connect the dots. She's a notorious Eagles hater and starter people seeking confirmation bias. So she's had a lot of those.
Rossini's husband's an Eagle fan too. That's why I've never understood her reporting, but she lost a lot of respect from me, and I liked her a lot before the AJ Brown stuff, where she was like, I'm hearing, and then it was like, well, you saw on his social media he's upset, so obviously he's like,
right, yeah. What else are we adding to those reports? You know, it's like,
right.
Come on. Dylan with the 10. If AJ and Jalen had a falling out, and BG said Hurts has tried to mend it, I'm on the side of Hurts after AJ's constant antics. It's also not just a media-created issue, like AJ loves to say.
No, it's not a media-created issue. I'm sure there are things going on inside the locker room, but we went from Jalen and AJ are, not BFFs anymore to Jalen is Carson Wentz 2.0 minus the religion, apparently, which is like that's a whole different story, right? So just a little different. It's just a little different. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
they definitely don't like each other. AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts definitely are not
Something
BFFs
changed.
anymore.
We all know
That's
that.
clear.
We can all see it. It's very obvious. Look at the mic'd up clip of
Right.
Kevin Patullo coming over and saying, hey, I call that play for you. And in the past, Jalen and AJ would have some sort of better interaction. It's literally Jalen going by and he says, like, good play or something. And just like a quick, almost, knuckles, don't even look at him and move on. So there's something that happened. But I think they're competitors. They can figure it out, play well enough, be okay with each other to get the job done this year. And then who knows about next season. Aisha with a 10. I'm not worried about Hurts, but is it just me or did he look visibly upset during last game? He did not have much open options in last game because the Lions defense is too good, plus Goff couldn't pass either. He was frustrated.
He didn't.
For sure.
Yeah, he definitely was. Definitely was, for sure.
But the win play factor, Lions defense, pretty good, but their corners they should have taken advantage of. The win played a factor, so there is something to be said about that. But ultimately, it goes back to the watch the game, watch the film. We've talked about it on our breakdowns. You can go look up different film reviews as well. But it's not maximizing anything of what this offense is doing, regardless of everything else, player personnel that we've talked about. Brian with a 5. How is that the ex-passing coordinator becomes the OC and forgets to throw the ball? It's like giving the keys of a Ferrari to a 16-year-old.
I know. But what's so weird is that you would think if they knew that he was the problem with the passing game, then, maybe they wouldn't have hired him, but they still did. I honestly don't know. I honestly do not know.
Yeah. It doesn't make complete sense. So many questions. James with a 5. It's funny. Hurts is under a microscope every game/year. Justin Herbert, no smoke at all year after year. Yep.
And one of them has won a Super Bowl, and one of them has Herbert won a playoff game yet? I don't think he. Maybe he did. Did he win one? Maybe. That's the problem. We don't know.
I'm having to. I can't remember even. I know that he blew one.
Lost the Jags game. Lost the Texans last year.
Yeah. Did he win one?
Yeah. Maybe not. But yes,
we're forgetting.
We see it.
But yes.
But the rest of the league doesn't.
5 from Nate. People complaining about the AJ or the PI call on AJ. Don't realize Goddard got held the whole route. Not to mention Lions wouldn't have done anything else on offense. Yeah, Thomas said it during the stream. If you were watching the game stream, he was like, I'd be crashing out if that called against the Eagles. We would. If that had been the reverse, we would have been in the same boat. But it is also fair to say, like you're pointing out, Nate, there's no guarantee. There's absolutely no guarantee that Jared Goff completing 33% of his passes was going to march down the field and have this, hero drive to score for the Lions and tie this thing up. So they and the missed call on the tush push and everything else, they had to take advantage. So, all right, last super chat here. Appreciate you guys before we wrap up. Nolan with a 5. We're spoiled. Remember T.O.'s driveway and quarterback rooms of Bradford, Sanchez, Tebow.
Yes.
Why ruin the golden age of Eagles football?
Yes. I saw a tweet where it was like, you don't realize we entered the golden age in 2022. We're still in the golden age.
Yeah.
You got to appreciate the golden age while you're still in it, because if you're the Chiefs, your golden age might maybe be over, at least for this season.
It's crazy.
They're not going back to the AFC title game, so you got to enjoy it while we're here, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yep. Just try to enjoy it. Figure this thing out. Dallas week, excitement, Kelly Green jerseys, everything else. We'll keep you guys posted. Eagles practice today, injury updates, everything else. Next couple days, videos on the way as always, other giveaways. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we appreciate you guys. Until next time, go Birds.
Go Birds.